Is it the end of the world as we know it? As we approach the end of the Mayan calendar in December, will the world cease or will a new world peace emerge? It's time to create your own new reality. Will you stay stuck in pain and fear, or will you step into your power? Welcome to the new Connection Astrology forecast for November and December 2012. I'm your host, Vicki Thompson. Joining me today is astrologer Mark Dodage. Today's astrology forecast is brought to you by the Lightsong School of Shamanic Studies, which offers classes through online video conferencing and locally in Portland. Founded in 1994 by healer and author Jan Ingalls Smith, Lightsong offers courses in the practice of shamanism and alternative energy medicine. Mark, welcome to the new Connection Astrology forecast for November and December.
It's been a quick year, hasn't it?
I know. I can't believe we've gotten to the end of the year and possibly the end of the world as we know it.
All right.
You know, we have heard so much hype around the Mayan calendar and the end of the world, so it's definitely a topic that we'll talk about today. But the first thing that we're going to start out with is another lovely Mercury retrograde, which this year is happening on Election Day on November 6th.
Exactly on Election Day. You know, we have Mercury retrograde about 3 times a year, and it's the classic communications breakdown cycle when if something can get screwed up, it will. We may remember that we had the last Mercury retrograde, not the last Mercury retrograde, but the last election Mercury retrograde was at the Bush-Gore election when they had communications problems in Florida. So everybody's wondering, is there going to be a repeat of the Florida incident or not? Now, as I've looked at it, there's a lot of harmonious things going on at the same time this challenge is. So I think there'll probably be some annoying issues with the elections, but I don't think there's going to be the gigantic Bush-Gore Florida fiasco this time around.
So what's different this time and what's creating the harmony with that Mercury retrograde?
Well, there's several planets such as Venus, which is love, beauty, harmony, grace, is making, we'll call it making nice, or in astrology we call it trines, which think of a stable pyramid, are operating. So there's things that are what we'll call tempering it so that it's not all that banging you in your face. Yet the Mercury retrograde is going to be in Scorpio, and that is deep, intense emotions. So, you know, we can expect some emotions surrounding this election for sure.
So if you know there's Mercury retrograde, it's probably making certain your transportation to the voting center is in place or that you've gotten your ballot in on time. Just being aware that there might be some miscommunications.
Sure, and it can affect your computers and your scheduling and your planning. And the key to use Mercury retrograde is it's really a good cycle to pull back within and make a plan. For example, I'll be planning my January lectures during Mercury retrograde. I pull back into my little hole and prepare for the future. But if people are going to be traveling for the Thanksgiving Day holiday, it would be wise to, shall we say, not give yourself a 20-minute layover in Chicago. Give yourself extra time.
To get through at that time. Well, wonderful.
Good.
That's perfect for our election coming up. And there's the old joke that we might be moving backwards anyway at that time, but hopefully we'll be charging forward and happy where we're going in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a powerful pattern, a Y-shaped pattern occurring in the skies between Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. How will this affect our careers and our relationships this fall?
Sure. Well, first off, we call it a yod, and it is a pattern that will be in the end of the Mayan calendar winter solstice chart. And it would, if you were to draw it in, like to draw the dots between the planets in the sky, it would look either like a Y shape or a divining rod, where you hold 2 handles and it drives the third thing. Well, Saturn says we have to restructure something. The way the world is working or the way the structure of your life needs revamping, shall we say. And then Pluto says we need to let go and let God or burn our bridges behind us, that the past is the past and let old paradigms fall into the past. It's a new world, it's a new Mayan calendar. And both of those, in an uncomfortable fashion, drive the planet Jupiter. So imagine you're the inside of a bottle of champagne and somebody's shaking on it with this thumb on it, okay? There's this tension saying we need to go somewhere, but we're trying to find the proper outlet to get out. And the planet Jupiter would be at the point of the Y, like the point of the divining rod. And Jupiter says, number one, we must transform our belief system to allow us to have something larger, or we use the words expansion with Jupiter. And then Jupiter requires you to take a leap of faith on yourself. So you restructure your life, you let go of what doesn't belong anymore, and you say, I am willing to take a risk on myself to go create a new reality in the new year, the new 5,000-year Mayan calendar, however you want to view that.
Well, that's a wonderful shift into the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big thing on people's mind. So coming up around that time, we have a Gemini Sagittarius lunar eclipse. And that will happen in late November.
Yes.
And that will set the stage for winter solstice on December 21st. And so that is also the end date of the Mayan calendar. So what is this end? Do we have the end of the world to look forward to, or is there something different that's going to happen?
Think of it as the action before the action happens, or the thing that's setting up the action to come. So on November 28th, there's a lunar eclipse in Gemini. It's the last of the lunar eclipses in Gemini for about 9 years, so in and of itself it represents a set of completions. But Gemini says we need to explore the possibilities and open our mind to new ways of doing things, and yet a lunar eclipse is emotional. It tends to pull us apart to reintegrate us in a better way. So you can expect around Thanksgiving Day holiday, there's going to be a few emotions up, okay? But the key is it lands at the eclipse at 7 degrees Gemini lands at the same point that Jupiter we talked about in the Y shape is going to be, and Venus rules our value system. So all of a sudden it's saying we need to open our values, our ideas, our mind to new possibilities, and then come winter solstice in this Y-shaped pattern, Jupiter says, okay, get off your backside and it's time to take a risk on yourself. If you've been talking about all these ideas, it's now time to start putting them into action, even though with that Y shape it may be a little uncomfortable at first. So
a lot of people, they talk about the end of the calendar, end of the world. There's been so many of these doom and gloom movies and other things like that. From listening to what you're saying, it sounds like we are being prepared to break free of old limiting beliefs. We've had Scorpio poking us and getting us ready. And then with Jupiter and this Y pattern, getting us ready to create and move forward into a new calendar.
Yeah, in my view, everyone's belief system is going to be in play here. If you believe the world is, pardon my French, going into hell in a handbasket, then that's probably what you're going to create. Mm-hmm. If you believe this new reality is being created and you're willing to trust yourself to step up into it, even though you may not have external evidence that it's going on, it's about saying, I'm going to open my mind and consciousness and trust my connection to the divine to step into whatever this larger thing that is still a little bit elusive, okay? So I don't have fears or panic, and I love watching all those, I love action movies, I love watching things get blown up, but I'm not really holding that philosophy. I know TV is just TV. Mm-hmm. So my feeling is we're moving into a new paradigm, and people need to trust the process to allow their spirit to open up to step into that.
Something totally new.
Yes.
Yeah, and I like the idea that you hold the power to create your own reality. And so you can step into something new and something very powerful.
And it will be really important for people to pay attention to their own consciousness of what their belief says about, is the world going bad, or is it the world just in a breakdown and rebuilding phase? Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and from what we've been talking about from the fall into November, December, it's really been preparing us to look inward, and then Jupiter's here to push us to create outward.
And we'll need to take a risk on ourselves to do that.
Wonderful. Well, Mark, it's a pleasure, and I do count on seeing you again for our January, February forecast, because we know the world isn't going to end.
Oh my gosh, we're talking about New Year already.
Yes, yes. I look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Worried about the end of the world? Check out the new Connection channel on YouTube and try our end of the world meditation. You have the power to create your future. Want more on your sign? Check out Astromark and Starscope at newconnectionjournal.com. Join us next time for the New Connection Astrology Forecast, and get connected.